你在做什么？你让他提高警觉了。
Greetings again, YouTube. 大家好, Tony the Chankfield here. I've made some optional changes and fixes to my new Kratos action figure. I'll explain them shortly, but remember that these changes are optional, depending on circumstances. In my case, though, some fixes had to happen.
Boy. I'll discuss the Leviathan axe right away. I made a note in my proper review about the axe potentially breaking, thanks to the fragile peg holding both halves of the axe together. A shame that said peg was broken while I was trying to wedge the axe into Kratos' hand again. I glued the two halves back together using a microbrush coated with washable school glue that one can buy at a local craft or office supply store. I work with what I already have. The downsides? 1. I can't take the axe apart again. 2. The bottom half can still be wobbly depending on how much force that's used from bending the glue. If I do want Kratos to hold his axe though, I'd have to pry his fingers open to fit his weapon through. I'm not doing that on screen this time. As for the axe blade, I've watched the axe glow many times during several playthroughs of the recent God of War game. I wanted to recreate that effect. First I used a toothpick with the tip covered in light blue paint to paint most of the inscriptions carved on both sides of the blade. I should have stopped there, but next I used liquid whiteout to paint over most of the dried blue paint. This custom paint job was hit and miss. The blue paint still doesn't look light enough, and the whiteout on the blade almost looks splattered on instead of painted on. Using the toothpick from earlier to scrape off some of the dried whiteout helped some, but not so much. Painting the axe blade is optional, so attempt at your own risk.
Boy.
Now what about storing his axe? Originally, one would have to wedge his axe through the Greek symbol on his back that was essentially a small hoop. I ain't doing that no more. I used the scissor attachment on my Swiss Army knife to cut between the bottom half of the symbol. The image after shows my result. Now the axe can easily slide into the Greek symbol without added stress put on the axe or the figure. Be advised that moving the figure too much can cause the axe to fall out afterwards if you perform this small fix. Unless you treating the figure like a salt or pepper shaker, the Greek symbol should hold the axe adequately.
Boy.
It is time to end my coverage of Kratos' figure for real. I've covered his pros and cons as best as I could. I'm sure that they'll be useful to other God of War fans elsewhere. I'm Tony the Chankfield, also known as Tony Creator on DeviantArt. Feel free to comment on all that, and also feel free to visit my DeviantArt page. Link in the description as usual. Thanks again for watching. 多谢收睇.
Boy.